Hey everyone, this is Zachy from the Zachy Zone. Today might be a little bit longer video, but we're going to talk about like the vision of xcash, kind of what we want to transform xcash into, how we want it to work, and all that. Um, so essentially, there's two different things with this. So kind of technical, and then kind of like I don't know how to explain it component-wise or something. So let's talk about the technical first. I think, or actually, let's rephrase that: the scaling, and then the actual like how to technical stuff. So let's talk about the scaling part first. I wrote something a long time ago, but the scaling is essentially, basically, the scaling is. The way we want to do it is because here's the problem. If you take Monero and it's like at 4 transactions a second, you're looking at like, I don't remember the numbers because I don't have them in front of me, but it's either like, I think it's like almost close to a gigabyte a day would be added to the blockchain just for 4 transactions a second. With a credit card, they're doing, I don't know if they do. I don't know if it's 2,500 or like 50,000 or something like that, but it's a lot, substantially way more. So, which is to be expected to a certain extent. So essentially, like there's a divide, right? Because like the only way to get to that today is to basically make it like centralized and have large servers. And obviously that's not what blockchain is. But then if you do it like this, it's very slow, right? So to us, there's got to be a middle ground. Obviously, there's a lot of like technologies that are coming out. Different compression things that can make it smaller, and then obviously bandwidth and hard drives and all that are getting faster. But you would max out a chain with the hard drive. So like one of the things is like, there's a lot of coins that say we do 1 million transactions per second and stuff. But the problem is that the bandwidth, the hard drive, something would max out. Like it might hit 1 million, but it would max out. And the question then becomes, because Monero is about 10 size. It was 100 when they were before bulletproofs. Now it's 10 times the size of a transaction of a Bitcoin. I think the Bitcoin transactions are one of the smallest. They don't pack much data in there. So then essentially it becomes like something's gonna max out. If you're doing, millions of transactions per second for a day, I think it's going to be either the hard drives, the bandwidth, the CPU, most likely not the CPU. It's most likely going to be the hard drive, the bandwidth that will max out for a normal user, right? And then you'd have to move them to a server, and then that would be a big problem, right? Because then what's the point? This is supposed to be decentralized. That's kind of the power of this whole thing, was it's decentralized. But then there's the scaling issue. So the way we look at this at xcash is essentially, we think we have the good solution, right? Or otherwise we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't think we had good solutions. We're not just trying to copy a coin, fork a coin, and be like, hey, we've changed this or we've added this product. Like, that's not our thing. Like, we're trying to change we're trying to bring CryptoNote a whole different direction and see, if that sticks with people. Does it change anything in the blockchain space? So essentially the idea is the delegates, right? So we have the delegates. The delegates are really the focus, like the nucleus, the key of the xcash, right? So what that does is, I already talked about in the depots video, the last one, is that we're gonna have the blocks and the transactions, or no, we're gonna have a decentralized database. So what that does is it allows us um, to keep important stuff only, like the super high important stuff, on the regular blockchain, and put all the other junk or high level stuff on the delegate blockchain. Um, Reasons for doing that are pretty simple, because obviously you want to have it kind of keeps with the decentralized theme, right? Because when you jump into xcash, anybody can grab a node, set it up, they get a copy of all the transactions and all the blocks that ever existed. That way we have thousands upon thousands of people that have that. But then there's only going to be like 50 people, or there'll probably be more, because some people will go out in and stuff. But essentially, currently live, there's going to be 50 people. Essentially, you can download it if you're an xcash fan. You're not top 50. You could just download the database. I have employed that. There's no checks with that. Be in the top 50, so you can download the database. Keep it on a server if you want. But essentially, the 50 are going to have all the large data, right? Because they're the ones that are going to be making the money with the blocks from the block rewards, if they convert it to money. But they'll be making the xcash, and they'll be storing the data, and they'll be on a high server. Everybody else can keep their stuff on the home computer. So that's why we split that up, because of that scaling issue. Because obviously, if you just say we want to make big blocks and everything, and the scaling is fixed, but then it's only a bunch of servers, right? That's kind of how Bitcoin is essentially. Like, most people don't download. I mean, you can download it, but most people just use the server, whatever service, to send out the Bitcoin. So we don't actually want that. We want people to actually, like Monero, still be able to send transactions out of their computer. But then at the same time, we want the scaling and the high levelness to be stuck in with the 50 people, right? Because they're the ones paying for the servers, but they're getting compensated with the block rewards. So then the scaling becomes an interesting question, because we don't talk about how many transactions per second this will do, and the reason is because it's probably infinite. The reason for that is I've explained it once, but essentially, if you have a system where the delegates are processing most of the high-level things, the smart contracts and the this and the that, and they're on different side chains, and they're hosting the different side chains, and that way they don't get clogged in, and the transactions are moved from let's just say at least 50%. I would like it to be higher though. The transactions are moved from the slow 5-minute block transaction, because obviously we can't speed that up. That would be the one thing. If 100,000 transactions were pushed, it would still slow down, right? But we can speed up anything high level that I'm working on and see outside of this. So the sidechain transactions are a perfect example. It's a dual benefit, because you have the user wants to use it, right? Because you can send a transaction within, it's instant. You can pay for your coffee, or if someone accepts that or whatever. But the blockchain wants you to use that because it's going to be small, and can be on a side chain, and can be compressed, and can be offloaded, and stuff like that. So anyways, if everybody's using side chains for the payments, for small small payments, obviously there's a reason to use the mainnet for larger purchases where time is not a constraint. But if everybody's using the small side chains plus all the smart contracts, non-fungible tokens, the tokens on many different blockchains, remember that blockchains are not tokens essentially, and stuff like that. If everybody's using these, then essentially it becomes the power of the server is really the folding point, if you will, of how fast or how much the chain can go without getting clogged. So then if you figure if the delegates are making money off of or not money, I guess it should be xcash. If they're making xcash off of the block reward, if they're making xcash off of each thing, anytime someone initiates a smart contract, they get some xcash. Anytime they send a sidechain payment, they get some xcash. If the delegates are making all this xcash, then if more users jump in all of a sudden and it becomes slow, then the delegates have more chance to make more xcash if they upgrade the server, right? So they would do that, and it's guaranteed that they'll make the xcash. And the reason I'm saying it's guaranteed is because they set the price. Because they're the ones voted in, the ones paying for the server, the ones they're gonna set the price of, like it cost, 10,000 xcash to create a smart contract. Okay, now it costs 100,000, et cetera, et cetera. It works out the free market system where, if they said it cost, 1 billion, nobody's gonna create it, and then they won't make any money. So it kind of, it will bounce to a certain point. It might go higher or lower depending on what, but essentially it will max out depending on how large of a server they get. But they'll always be upgrading when they know they can make more money, and they can guarantee that by voting for a higher limit on how much it costs to do what. So if you've got a system like that where essentially, let's just boil this down for a second. Essentially, it's a bunch of servers that are elected with delegated proof of stake with a coin that are basically then running multiple different blockchain programs that are tied into a base blockchain that then basically enable a whole bunch of high-level features and functions. If the consensus is built on the main chain, the security, the consensus part, that the high-level features can inherit the security, right? Like they don't each have to have, like sidechains don't have to have their own like validation, because the validation is basically inherited from the main chain. So if you have a system like that where other people can download the high level database anytime they want, but everybody that wants to send payments can download just the regular blockchain, which is going to be kept at a minimum, while the other data is going to balloon. If you've got that, then essentially you've got a decentralized coin where people are still transacting on their computer. We don't have to, it's not like Bitcoin where it's like 300 gigabytes, like, oh my gosh, who's going to download that? Like, I'm just going to use the server. Like, it's still very maintainable to download. You can send a transaction on your own desktop. While the server's doing that, the server is going to have infinite side chains. It's going to have infinite, transactions, sidechain transactions, smart contracts, et cetera, et cetera. So the scaling really is infinite at that point, because it will keep growing as the demand meets it. The service will keep growing because they'll be guaranteed to make money. They'll make xcash. So they'll be able to cover the cost of their server. They can set the prices. The free market will dictate how high they can set the prices. The scaling is going to be infinite, but we've also solved the whole, well, wait a minute, if the scaling is infinite, that means no one actually has a copy. That's far from the case, because everybody will have a copy of the most important thing. the mainnet, the transactions. However, anybody can also at any time download on their desktop the whole thing if they wanted to. Of all the side chains and all that. And then obviously we split them in side chains that way they don't interfere with each other on the mainnet. So that's basically what did I say that was the technical vision? That's basically the technical vision. That's the way that, Guillaume did a lot of thinking on that. We designed this like months before we even started the Dpops. So that's essentially our way of trying to do this is having the delegates basically be the main factor and having them do the infinite transactions, the infinite scalability through a delegate server, but at the same time keeping it as decentralized as possible and as small as possible for the regular user, but adding all the high-level features, but still keeping it private at the same time. It's a whole bunch of balances here, but we think we have a good solution, a good balance between all of these. So that's why we're doing this coin. The second part I want to talk about is basically like the vision for the actual programming part. Obviously we're working on the protocol. We are working on some of the products. We have some products that are really good, I think. We have an idea for a DApp that we'd like to build as soon as we build that protocol, then we can start building those dApps. Because obviously once smart contracts come in, you guys can build dApps, obviously, decentralized apps. Whether it's a game or whatever it is, it can be, it can run off of the xcash blockchain with the smart contracts. So we have an idea. Guillaume had a good idea for that. He wants to build it, so we're gonna build that. But essentially, if you want to take a look at it, like a tree, so it's got the roots, so that would be xcash core, right? The fork of Monero, but modified, obviously, because without that, xcash wouldn't be here. So we've got that. And then you figure you go up, and the trunk part, that's probably the Dpop's core server. The core program. That's why Dpops took so long, because it was all the core plus the Dpops, which is why everything else won't take that long, because we won't have to do a core. So you figure that's the next thing, and then you figure at that point it can branch out. There's some products that we have with the tree limbs, right? There's some products we have that then might enable other things. And then on this side, you've got our protocols, the non-fungible tokens, the smart contracts. And then from there, we would see a whole bunch of community development on the top, right? Like using the smart contracts and the non-fungible tokens and the sidechain payments, someone could, build a video game or, build whatever. So that's why we're doing the builders program. We're getting ready. We've been working on that a long time, but we need to have it to be right, because that essentially, we can build the protocol and stuff, but we need, to make the coin really good and big, we need a community full of builders that want to build something that interests them, or whatever dApp that is. So essentially that's the idea for that as well. If you have like an infinite scaling decentralized blockchain thing over here, and then over here you've got a whole bunch of community members either doing pull requests on the protocols and helping me and the team build the protocols, or you're building a whole bunch of dApps or other programs or whatever, other products maybe, then we think the coin will really have its flourishing moment, because you'll have both from a building perspective and a blockchain running perspective. You'll have it really at a high throughput. So that's essentially the vision, the goal for xcash. that's why we're encouraging people to start, doing PRs and all that, and looking through the code and audits and stuff like that. So thank you for watching this video, but I wanted to explain that. This hasn't really been explained in that way. So I think this is an important video. So thank you for watching this video.